Yesterday was our intro to the pain train. Today is our ticket on the Zane train because, yes, the hype is real. The kid rocking number 6 is now a screaming locomotive careening down Stillwater at breakneck pace.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day O State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Do not miss out on your opportunity to get the best tickets in the game, as you need tickets to prepare for Oklahoma State season. And as you're getting prepared to get the tickets and come see the Cowboys play, we know that the quarterback is 3 deep. And I asked yesterday, so I look forward to more of the comments, has Oklahoma State ever gone 3 deep at quarterback to the extent that 3 QBs could win a Big 12 title? I still think the answer is no, but I'm excited to see what you have to say. We do have 3 QBs right now that could win Oklahoma State a Big 12 title in 2024. Of course, we know about the mainstay, Alan Bowman. But the Zane train is very real, right? I'm still Team G13, Garret Rangel, all day, every day. But even Garret can appreciate the things that Zane is doing in a matter of honesty. I do still believe that Garret is better than Bowman, even though I have seen a significant amount of improvement from Alan Bowman in the pocket. I still think that the fan base has absolutely no clue whatsoever what Garret Rangel can actually do right now. And I'm personally afraid to find out what he would look like in another Big 12 jersey, but for how much he's already developed, bought in, stayed dedicated to his craft, his team, and Oklahoma State University, while having several other opportunities, in a typical Mike Gundy world, he would probably lean Garret over Zane. Mike Gundy loves upperclassmen, sometimes a little bit too much. Always has, and he likely always will. So yeah, Garret Rangel over Zane Flores does make some sense right now, especially when it comes to operating the offense. But that's right now. So the question is, how much longer can Garret hold off Zane? The all-everything Mr. Football in Nebraska, the Nebraska Gatorade Player of the Year, the guy who owns Nebraska State history record books at QB with 9,163 yards to the air with 82 touchdowns and another 393 yards rushing. That was the little ember, right? The spark that got everybody excited. That was also the ember that Nebraska dropped a bag for, but it was just a little bit too late. Now, a comp here is kind of hard without Zane physically on the field doing the daggone thing. But from practices, clips, highlights, articles, and trick shots, of course, with Hudson Clark on Instagram, it is certainly starting to look like you could say that maybe he has a Brandon Whedon level arm. Maybe he has Zach Robinson level athleticism. Maybe he has Mason Rudolph level humbleness. I mean, the dude did walk into the building at 6'3", 207 pounds. Now he's in the 215 range. And guys, my most recent conversation I had with Leon Johnson III was him saying that one of the biggest reasons that he wanted to get a red shirt for the 2024 season was because of Zane. Now, I thought it was partially because they were a quartet of buddies that always hung out together. Well, I was kind of wrong. I mean, sure, that helps, just like it's helpful to build this Zane hype train that has gained new legs right after the Adam Schobel decommitment. Smart move and a good call. Leon said that Zane is legitimately just that good, and he thought Zane would have a really good shot at starting at some point in this season. This is the season he wanted to come back for because of Zane. Of course, he loved Stillwater, the people in the city, Trayson Wallace, Casey Dunn, Mike Gundy. But he really wanted a full season of Rob Glass and a full season with Zane Flores. Zane has a cannon. And yes, that is a word that's thrown around quite loosely when talking about quarterbacks. But the most recent stuff we've seen, it is legitimately impossible for me or anyone else to keep pretending that the Zane hype train isn't 100% real. It's preposterous for anybody, including myself, to pretend that Zane Flores is not going to be a massive problem for the Big 12 really quickly. His come up to me is very much like Baron Morton at Texas Tech. And if I recall correctly, when that dude at Texas Tech is healthy and starts the game, they're like 5-1. Of course, he's got to stay healthy or none of it really matters anyways. But let's be real. If Oklahoma State or anyone else makes it through a 15-game schedule with the same quarterback that started game one and somehow stays completely healthy all season, I will hop my little happy hippity hoppity behind right on up those Boone Pickens stairs with a Tigger the Tiger costume on. It just doesn't happen very often. Alan Bowman is a little more agile, hostile, and mobile this season. I think that he plans on having a very, very big year, of course, with the wide receiver core and some of the benefits we have with Tyler Foster at tight end position. But I also don't think that Alan Bowman is planning on having an 80% completion rate to the fans in row 2 anymore. And he knows that if, God forbid, something were to happen, he's headset and clipboard ready to go, knowing the other dudes have this covered for him. So I hope, of course, that Bowman goes wire to wire, doesn't have any issues, all the way to Arlington and beyond, because he's earned every single millisecond of his QB1 status. His story through adversity and what he dealt with at Tech and the transition to Michigan and then to Oklahoma State through Stillwater, that's worth tickets. That's worth its weight in gold. That's worth all of the conversations and the accolades that he's getting. He's earned them. He deserves them. But the Zane train is building more hype because of the realistic things that he can do. Like when I say he has a cannon, the ball comes off of his hands significantly different than almost everybody else in college football, especially at his age. We all know that when you have multiple years in this system, Mike Gundy feels very comfortable and confident in your ability to lead the team, or at least have an understanding of positionally where people should go and what the play should look like. So, of course, Allen's got a plethora of that, plus the option route stuff he brought up from Michigan and the old school route tree stuff from Casey Dunn. But Zane brings an athleticism to him that, if nothing else, we should see him in some packaging, some 4th and 1, some goal line, some red zone. And if something were to happen, we're in really, really good hands. So good, in fact, that there's no way to slow this hype train down. So I'm going to jump on board. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Oklahoma State. So no matter who I prefer, at the end of the day, I want the best quarterback on the field that can win us the most amount of ball games physically possible. That's it. That's what it's all about. This is the season of capitalization. This is the year that Mike Gundy needs to grasp and hold on to for the future of Oklahoma State, what we can be. Because I feel like we've only scratched the surface. I think Boone Pickens feels somewhat the same. I also feel like Zane Flores and Garret Rangel would start at most Big 12 schools. So let's take a little bit of a look at some of the other Big 12 schools that both or either could likely start for in this conference, not even considering the rest of the conferences, okay? But before we do that, I have to remind the fine folks out here, the season is almost underway. Therefore, you got to get the best tickets in the game. You know, the travel, hotels, rentals, all that fun jazz. It's not fun. Actually, it's horrendous. So take the craziness out of you getting tickets to the game, but not just Oklahoma State event, right? They've got music, comedy, theater, Major League Baseball. If you want to go see Jackson Holiday, put up some more bombs, Game Time has you covered. With last-minute killer deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed, it's no wonder why Game Time takes the guesswork out of you buying Major League Baseball or any other ticket, really. All you have to do is look at the flash deals, right? They save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. The all-in pricing allows you to know the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You know, I love the panoramic view from the seats in the app before you purchase, so there's no hooliganry of getting put in the wrong section, wrong seat, whatever. Take the craziness out of the equation. Take the guesswork out of you buying Major League Baseball or Cowboy football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, make sure you create that account and redeem that code Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. What is not guaranteed is that our two backup QBs would play at every Big 12 school. But if you ran up and down the line of all of the quarterbacks in the conference, I think we'd be surprised. Would either Garret Rangel or Zane Flores start at KU over Jaden Daniels? No, they would not. Would they start at Utah over Cam Rising? No. Would they start over Noah Fafita at Arizona? Likely not. Would they start over KJ Jefferson at UCF? Yes, both of them would. I know I'm going to get some grief from some UCF people, but I'm not a big believer in KJ Jefferson, nor do I believe that KJ Jefferson is willing to do what is necessary to make a Gus Malzahn offense operate at its best capabilities. Would they start over Rocco Becht at Iowa State? I do think so. I think that Garret Rangel is noticeably better than Rocco Becht. Guys, if you take away Jalen Noel and Higgins, two guys that put up 1,803 yards last year, and then they have their tight end, Bremen or whatever, returning after he put up a little over 300 or just under 300 yards last year. So a bulk of their production through the year happened to be with three people. And yes, they all return, but I also think that the Big 12 has gotten a little bit deeper. And I think that the secondaries, especially at Oklahoma State, are going to be able to match up. So I think that both Zane and Garret would have a very good shot at starting over Rocco Becht. Would they start in Cincinnati? Absolutely. Would they start at BYU over Retzlaff? Absolutely. Would they start at Texas Tech over Donovan? Probably. I think Donovan Smith's pretty good, but I do think that both Rangel and Flores would start above him. What about Avery Johnson at K-State? Well, if they went with the old Will Howard system, I think Garret Rangel would win the job. If they went with the new system, that's more favorable for Zane Flores. And Zane Flores is just a bigger, stronger version of Avery Johnson with what appears to be a little bit of a stronger arm. So the answer is likely yes. Right? If you keep going up and down the line, so that's Texas Tech, Behren Morton. That's one of the few that I actually don't think that either one of them would beat out. I think Zane is very comparable to Behren Morton, and I think the come up is similar. And again, when Behren Morton is healthy, Texas Tech is a completely different ball club. And of course, we don't want to wish injury upon anybody. But if you look at, Hooker at TCU, or Josh Hoover, sorry. Would he start over Garret Rangel or Zane Flores? I don't think so. Of course, I'm biased. And of course, at some point in time in this season, I could be proven wrong. But I think just like last season, we're going to find more often than not that this room is exactly what I'm trying to present. The best quarterback room in the Big 12 by a good, solid country mile. I can't think of another time, nor can I think of another team in the conference that can lose their first two quarterbacks and still have any shot at winning a Big 12 title. Would the offense look a little bit different with Zane? Yeah, probably. Would we have a little bit of a different utilization of the weapons on the outside? Yeah, probably. Would we lean on the run game more and set up some RPO stuff with Zane? Yes, again, probably. But all of those would still equal Oklahoma State having a ridiculous season. Guys, outside of the teams that we've already discussed inside the Big 12 that we would likely have Cowboys starting at, there's also a massive majority of teams across the country in the ACC, in the Big 10, in the bottom half of the SEC that would utilize the services of Garret Rangel and Zane Flores. We are in a ridiculous situation at the quarterback room. But we're in this situation because of guys like Tim Rattay. Of course, our quarterbacks, they want to be involved in throwing the ball to some of these big-time wide receivers, which Casey Dunn absolutely has a massive hand in. But that's another thing. Zane in high school had some receptions. He ran the ball, caught the ball, threw the ball. And he could have run the ball significantly more, even though now with a little bit of a Rob Glass Factory action, he's faster. So if you look at the other teams in the Big 12, again, you guys let me know. They wouldn't start at KU. They wouldn't start at Utah. They wouldn't start at Arizona. I don't think they'd start at Tech. Kansas State, I think it depends on which system you went with. If they stayed with an RPO-oriented system, then, of course, that would be more like a Zane thing. But you let me know down in the comment section for those of you watching on YouTube and everybody else, my people out there, the podcasting country. Let me know what you have to say. Hit the stars, leave a review, have some fun. I want to hear your input because I don't think that there's very many schools in the Big 12 that could not utilize the service. Garret Green, West Virginia, again, if you're talking about Avery Johnson and Zane Flores being a bigger, stronger version of Avery Johnson, then Zane Flores is easily a bigger, stronger version of Garret Green. I like Garret Green. I like West Virginia. I think West Virginia might have two of the only cornerbacks that can stop our wide receiver room. But when it comes to QB, we have the dudes. And the dudes that we have, to some degree, don't get enough love. Even Alan Bowman. It's certainly Garret Rangel. But the Zane train is real. And the more we see, the more we realize why. I get it. But I also get that our quarterback room has multiple dudes that would start at most places in America. I mean, if you even went through the bottom half of the Big Ten, bottom half of the SEC, there's a valid argument there. And of course, we're going to have to see it throughout the course of the season. But we're talking 14, 15 games. That's a lot. That's a lot to remain healthy, which is why you have to have the 3 deep that we have to make the kind of run that we're capable of making. And we're going to switch gears a little bit here. So if you guys noticed, it was yesterday, Chad Weiberg took to social media on X, and he took a bunch of questions from the fan base. Well, I guess I should say he did take questions, right? But a lot of people didn't know, or they had either heard about it at one point in time but kind of forgot, which is a problem, right? That is an issue. Just like it's an issue that we don't have a Heisman campaign already launched for Ollie Gordon. Just like we have to sift through a bunch of rinky-dink bull honky just to get some little useful tidbits of information. Guys, Robert Allen, right, a legend in the game, he sent me a message the other day. He was super kind, very nice, and he seemed genuinely curious. Now, I didn't write back because this is my platform, right? This is my thing, my stage, I guess you could say. I think that we have been better recently on covering Oklahoma State in the media department, but we have miles and miles to go. For example, Locked On has almost or over 100 daily college shows, and legitimately over 90% of them have full media access to everything right next to 247, On 3, News OK, Tulsa World. And it's because Oklahoma State deems certain things like podcasts as unreliable. Although I don't know if they've noticed, but people aren't subscribing to go buy a bunch of News OK, Tulsa World stuff that is quote unquote reliable. Now, this show was already running before I got the job, and the last host got the same treatment. Oklahoma State feels like if you're not in the cool kid club, you don't belong. And that's okay, because I took that as a challenge as opposed to a completely negative thing. And I've been able to carve out a nice little role for myself. But more information to give you would be beneficial. Like when I started this gig, it was like, I don't know, it's going to be awesome, right? I knew our national brand isn't pushed, promoted, or presented nearly enough to nearly enough people. But when you have somebody like Robert Allen with the most access in all of Oklahoma State, you got to give the fans something. I ain't talking about me per se, but I am saying that's why I took this job, because I always wondered, why do we never know anything? Why can we read hundreds of OU articles to get one O State article? And I always thought it was just because of OU and the brand and da 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 da. But the more I've found, the more I realize it's not always that. It's because Oklahoma State feels like we have to keep a stranglehold on every bit of information. And that's okay, because there's people like me that are going to continue to do what is necessary to help get information out to people. But that's the thing is, if you have that kind of access and you have that much information, of course, there's a multitude of things that you never want to get out. But there's also a significant number of things that would be beneficial to help grow the fan base. Our fan base will never, ever grow beyond what it is now if we keep everything in the little bitty bubble. So, RA, I think you're a G in the game. I think you're one of those people that most Oklahoma State fans that have any desire to be anything involving media idolize you. But then there are times that we all know that you're just putting stuff out because you were told to put it out. Just like we also know that there's times that you hype stuff up because you have to hype it up. I get it. I'm with it. I'm okay with it. But I'm also just trying to give what I felt like as a fan I could never get. Everybody knows coach speak information, right? Everybody knows that. But sometimes it'd be nice to know if there's a player that's doing something different. Kendall Daniels stuff. Yeah, we've known for a couple months now, right? Okay, cool. But it wasn't necessarily something that I was told needed to be shared. So I tried to play the game. And then it's out there. So it's like, it's difficult for some of us that are willing to play some ball to get undercut. Just like it's difficult, like last year, when you put out stuff that maybe not everybody wants put out. No, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. But what I am doing is trying to continue to build the bridges that I've built, to have, some of the access that I have. Guys, I'll be honest with you. I thought it would take me years just to get what I have now. And I think what I have now is because my relationship with the dudes is legitimately genuine. And my relationship with the dudes doesn't always have to have anything to do with football. That's why some of the dudes don't mind coming out and watching baseball tournaments, or having a lunch, or having a dinner, or maybe going to a golf course and just shooting the breeze. Because we're craving more interaction from players and coaches. And sometimes it's not fun, right? Knowing that there's so much more that the fan base deserves to know that nobody is willing to tell them. And again, I know enough, I've played long enough, coached long enough to know that 90% of everything in a locker room needs to stay in a locker room. But there are things that can drive fans closer to being Cowboy fans. I can't tell you how many times I've heard in the past, well, why are you an OU fan? Or why are you a this kind of fan? Because that's what was readily available to me, information-wise. People grow up OU fans because it's beaten to their brains, and OU promotes and markets constantly, 24/7. We don't do all that. Guys, we don't. We don't do what most other schools in the country do. And that's what I'm saying to you, Robert Allen. I don't have a problem with you. I think you have been better this year. I have a problem with the lack of give a crap from anybody inside the media, cool kid club about expanding Oklahoma State more than just in Oklahoma or just in this regional area. We're a big enough brand to be more national. We're a good enough brand to be more international, but we're not. And I don't think, me doing this podcast and this YouTube is going to drastically change anything. But I'm here to give what I could never get. And that's just a little bit more information, a little bit more pizzazz to get people pumped up for the season. It's not always going to be lollipops and rainbows. There's going to be several opportunities for us to have negative conversations about Oklahoma State, Montgomery, football, basketball, whatever. But this is a phenomenal time to be building up Oklahoma State to the biggest degree possible, which means we should be having players on shows, on pods, on radio calls, interviews, whatever, more than we've ever done before. This should be the biggest season we've ever had. We're not treating it as such from a media perspective. I think most of you, like me, just want Oklahoma State more national. We want to build the upper deck, which is something that Chad Weiberg had, talked about in his conversation with some of the fan base. But it was something that we didn't know enough about because we don't promote enough. We don't market enough. We don't push Oklahoma State enough. We don't get enough Oklahoma State players in front of cameras enough. So when is the time for us to expand and to try to grow the fan base? If it's not now, then I don't know that we ever will. Just like if we don't win a Big 12 title now with 21 returning starters and almost 90% of the roster, I don't know when we ever will again. I love what you do. I love what McLean does. I know the players really liked Marshall a lot. That's because he was very personable, right? It wasn't just football. They could have conversations outside of football about things that had nothing to do with football. Just being a real dude that is genuine helps a lot. And it allows you to get information and you can, disseminate. That doesn't make sense to put out. That does. I really don't want to put this out, but the fan base really needs to know. This shouldn't be a wrestling match 24/7 to try to give information to Oklahoma State fans to grow more. I don't get it. And that's okay. Maybe I won't ever get it. Maybe you can message me or holler at me and let me know what I'm missing. Because I just want Oklahoma State fans to get the information that I always wondered why we could never get. Why do we never know nothing? We don't know nothing about injuries. We don't know anything about transfers. We don't know anything about whether we're running a 3-4 or a 4-3 or a 4-2 or we don't know. It would be nice to know more. Because I don't have the reach that you do, Robert, Allen. I don't. Probably my my accessibility is, I don't know, probably a millimeter of what you could produce. You have the access that everybody in the world would kill for, would die for. And I feel like you waste it. And I think there's a significant amount of the fan base that feels the same way. You're viewed as the puppet that puts out the material that you're told to put out. The only person that can change that perspective is you. And I understand you don't want to put up stuff that'll diminish some of your access. But if you organically grow things naturally with the dudes in the locker room, then you don't need to do a bunch of crazy, fluffy stuff. Just keep it real. Have fun and be fun and make this season as fun as possible for everybody in the country that would like to think about becoming an O State fan. We're cutting those people out, and I don't like it. All right, y'all. I appreciate all of you. Sorry for the little rant there at the end, but I didn't know how to respond to Robert, so this is how I do it. All right, y'all. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't. That's okay, too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you are the ones that make this thing run. Do me a favor. Hit the stars. Leave a review. Do what you do. Like, share, comment, subscribe. All that fun jazz. Alrighty, y'all. We're out of here. Later, taters.